Hey everybody, Dustin DePierre here, columnist Jeremy Price. Before we get started on this, we do want to obviously point out the relative irrelevance of what we were covering tonight and salute everybody in Boston that led to the capture of the bombing suspects and whatnot. Obviously, big day, much more important events going on elsewhere. But anyway, we were at the DerbyClassic tonight. Figured we might as well do a scoop talk because it's probably going to be a while before we have another one. Hopefully you can hear us over the sounds of all that. Salute to that guy too. But interesting day for the Indiana signees. They had 5 of the 6 were here. A lot of them were guys we hadn't really had a chance to see before. Obviously, it's an all-star environment. It's not the same. You don't really get to evaluate guys even as well as you do in an AAU tournament, which isn't exactly the best environment either. But all-star games are even worse. Still, Troy Williams tonight was the MVP, and I feel like I learned a lot about him. I think there's a lot of interesting things, and he did some things that I think showed some promise for what kind of role he could play for Indiana next year.
Yeah, and I think it was a good reminder of why at one time that he was a top 10 recruit and a guy that was looking at Kentucky and North Carolina and programs like that, even though he kind of slid a little bit, I won't say off the radar. I mean, he's still a top-notch guy, played in the Jordan Brand game last week, and kind of reminded everybody what he's capable of doing out here. And I guess the thing with Troy Williams is that there's still a lot of potential, a lot of upside, even with all the things that he already can do.
Yeah. No, a couple things. I mean, his fellow signees, Colin Hartman, Devin Davis, dropped Victor Oladipo's name. And that's, that's obviously really high praise. And he's going to have a different career arc. I mean, at this point, I covered Victor Oladipo at this very event 3 years ago in 2010. And obviously he was not anywhere near what he became. And, I think he had 6 points, 5 assists in that game and just, wasn't a huge deal. And obviously used to be an All-American and a top 10 draft pick to be. Williams has a higher profile, but and he does. I mean, if he's got nothing else, he's got the athletic explosion. Maybe not the exact same as Oladipo, but it's there. I mean, he certainly has some really impressive plays tonight. A tip dunk. He came off the right wing and dunked left-handed. It was just crazy, and he's not a left-handed kid, which made it even more impressive. But what stood out to me and what I think really matters to Indiana is he looks like he could play backcourt. He looks like he can handle the ball, and that's obviously what they desperately need after the Remy Abel transfer. With Oladipo already gone and Jordan Hall's already gone, they need backcourt help. And he looks like he can actually be a backcourt player, not just another of many small forward wing types.
Yeah, I think he can play that 2 spot, and it's something he's willing to do. I mean, he mentioned after the game that he's willing to play 1 through 5 pretty much wherever you want him to play on the floor. He's not a 5.
Yeah. But no, he can be a 2. He can guard the 4. He feels comfortable guarding the 4 and playing the 4 in a smaller lineup and playing everything up until 2. But he did pick the ball up a few times tonight. I'm not sure if that's something you want him to do all the time. But, in a pinch, he can get it done. And he can handle, he could drive off ball screens. You saw him splitting defenders today. He looked like he's got a good enough handle that he can do most of the things that Crean needs him to do in his offense.
Yeah, I think he can fill in at the 2. He's going to have to work on his ball handling a little bit. I see him more as a kind of that point forward sort of type guy. If he's working against
more of a 3. Yeah.
If he's working against a 3, he's a really good ball handler. If he's working against a 2, he's an okay ball handler. If he's working against a 1, not so much.
Right, but if you're okay with an okay ball handler at the 2, considering what else they have.
Yeah, and depending on who you're playing and what you're matching up against, there's a lot of times where that's not an issue at all.
Yeah.
So,
but if nothing else, it definitely seems like I don't know if he's a starter, considering that maybe Robinson's a better 2. Sheehy obviously is a returning 3, and certainly the guy with the most experience in that team. I don't imagine that he's going to give him a starting spot very easily. But to me, he's a rotation guy. I mean, that's what it seems like to me. I think that's what obviously, there's a lot to prove. He's got to go to practice, and I've been wrong guessing on freshman kids before, Ana Perea, but. Williams looks to me like a guy that can make an impact immediately.
Yeah, no doubt Williams is going to be on the floor, and especially if you're moving Sheehy into the starting lineup, you're going to need somebody that can be an energy guy off the bench. I mean, I think whether Jeremy Hollowell comes off the bench or not, he should be much improved and really be able to give this team something, but he's not really that high energy type of player that a Troy Williams is. Troy Williams is a guy that can come off the bench, give you some steals, give you some offensive rebounds, and then from there, as his game develops, he's going to give you more stuff. I mean, I think he knocked down a couple of jumpers tonight, including a
couple threes. Yeah, he banked one.
And it's kind of an odd release a little bit, but it's one that really just requires consistency, and that's something he can find once he spends some time in the gym and working with the coaches and so on. I think that will get there in the long run.
Absolutely. Got to add strength too. They all do. They all look like kids. I mean, they're all. high school kids, and you could look at, they look that way physically. But who else stood out to you? What else did you like in terms of what you saw? Not just from Williams, but the other guys, the other 5 you saw tonight, or the 4 you saw tonight. Stanford Robinson was here, Luke Fisher was here, Devin Davis, Colin Hartman, who we've seen a bunch. But what did you think about the other guys tonight?
Yeah, that's kind of the funny thing is we came here kind of wanting to see what could we see out of Troy Williams, what could we see out of Stanford Robinson. We saw Luke Fisher a little bit last summer, but not a lot. And yet, kind of the 2 guys besides Williams that jumped out to me, I thought, was Davis and Hartman. Kind of the 2 overlooked guys a little bit. I thought Davis had a really nice game. You kind of saw how he fits in a situation with high-level players. He's a guy that can hit the offensive glass, that can kind of do some of that dirty work, keep the ball alive, just do kind of the little things. And I thought Hartman played a pretty good game. He was active on the glass. He knocked down 1 3. He's still not as consistent with that 3 as I think he's going to need to be if he's going to see any kind of sustained playing time.
Right.
But the effort was there. The competitiveness was there. And I thought he showed pretty well. I mean, he didn't look out of place with this group out here tonight.
No, he's not a guy that only shoots. But, I mean, the shot is what's going to get him on the floor or not. I mean, if he can't shoot, he's not going to play. But if he does shoot, he does enough other things that he's not going to be a liability elsewhere. I mean, he plays defense, he rebounds, he hustles. I don't know that he's got the just flat-out athleticism that stuff keeps him on the floor if he doesn't shoot. But if he does shoot, he's not a liability everywhere else. He gives you everything else you need. And he did, the shot looks so good. It just doesn't always go down. I mean, form-wise, it's darn near perfect. But it hasn't gone down consistently when we've seen him. I didn't obviously see a lot of him in high school play this year, but I haven't seen that a lot in the sort of summertime stuff that we've seen. Davis, everything comes with Davis. Like, the only, I don't want to say knock on him, it's just he's a guy without a position, in terms of the next level. But, he's athletic at this level. He hustles, he gets after it, he defends, he rebounds, he fights. There's going to be playing time for him at some point in time. He's going to serve a purpose. He's going to matter. It's just, does he ever start? That kind of thing. Now, he's got a value. Just a kid that's that tough, that gritty, is going to make a difference. He's going to refuse to be stuck on the bench just because he's that tough. You don't know where that impact is going to be. You can't look at him and say, well, he's going to be a starter next year. But, man, he's going to be a guy that he's going to just refuse to let you keep him on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. He does enough things that it just kind of forces you to find a place for him on the floor at some point.
Yeah.
And what he becomes in the future, that's up for grabs. That's kind of up to him and how hard he works and what parts of his game develop and what don't, whether it's shooting, ball handling, all those things. Those are all factors. But he's going to put forth the effort that makes you want to put him on the floor and just kind of see what happens.
Right. The thing is, he's 6'6". He's 6'6", and he's got a power forward's game and a 6'6" body, and that's a tough deal. But again, just because he hustles that hard, he works that hard, he gets after it that much, he's going to make an impact somewhere. Luke Fisher, I thought he looked good. I like a lot of things about his game. I always say, you hate to say it to a certain degree because you don't want to build up the expectation too high, but he's just been poor man's Cody Zeller to me the entire time I've watched him. And he's developing the same way. You can obviously tell. Right now you stick him in the Big Ten, you're not going to get a ton out of him because he's skinny. Top up, upper body. He's just a skinny kid right now. But he's developing the same way that Zeller did, which was legs first. With Zeller, he had these tree trunk legs and skinny arms when he was graduating high school, and he built that really fast, put on 15 pounds before the opener his freshman year. But between the time he got to Bloomington and between the season opener, I don't know, you might see the same thing from Fisher, I think, and I think he's got a lot of similar skill set. I don't know that he'll ever be at that level, but he does the same things.
Yeah, he's your typical 6'11" incoming college freshman. I think they're pretty much all there. I think what I kind of think of when I look at him is, maybe a little bit like Iowa's Adam Woodbury coming in. He's a guy that can play some minutes, and he's going to give you some things, but he's not quite ready to kind of reach that next level yet. It's going to take some time to develop. I think maybe he's a little bit ahead of Woodbury from what I've seen, a little bit offensively, a little bit.
Too. I think he's more ready. I think he's more athletic.
Yeah.
Woodbury's athletic, but Fisher runs like a deer in the same. He runs the break well, and they're going to need him. I think. They might need him to start. I'm not sure.
No, definitely, and I think he's a little more of a true center than Cody was. So
at the time,
I think that's probably a better fit for him if they plug him in that position. So we'll see what happens. But he does a lot of good things. I think he does a good job protecting the basket. Good shot blocker. Doesn't necessarily rely so much on the athleticism and the elevation to do his shot blocking, but timing and positioning to find that shot blocking.
And he's Janae Jackson's summer project.
Sure.
That's going to be the big thing. I mean, he's got the skill set. He's going to be ready to go. You've got to put weight on. That's the biggest thing. If he made it happen with Zeller, if he can make it happen with Fisher, he can change things. Stan Robinson, just to get through him real quickly, had his moments. Definitely had probably the prettiest play of the night. This gorgeous behind the back pass in transition for dunk, no look. Just gorgeous pass. Had 6 assists. Or 6 to 6? No, I'm sorry, 4 assists, 6 points. Did some things that were a little bit too slick, and that he wouldn't have got away with if anyone was playing defense. It's an all-star game, so they don't. But looks really. I think he's going to be really good. He didn't have a great game, but you see all the pieces that we've heard about. Good mid-range jumper, can get the hole, good handle, athletic kid, energetic kid, can play defense. Again, you don't see the best out of these things. The numbers don't look good. He was 3 for 9, but he can do what they need him to do. I mean, he's ready, I think, to be a backup point guard, to be possibly starting to guard. Considering what else is back there. Him and Troy, I think, are going to get a lot of minutes, both of them in that role. Looks like he's ready enough for that.
I think he's the quintessential combo guard. I think kind of can play that 1-2. He's sort of a 1.5. He can fill in at that point guard for a little bit. He can play that 2 spot. Kind of a unique player, I think. A little bit different than anything IU had recently, at least. So.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what those guys can do, and they're going to be asked to play immediately. I mean, this group we kind of thought last year's group was going to have to do a lot as they were being recruited. Didn't really turn out to be the case for anybody but Yogi Ferrell. This group is going to have to do a lot immediately. There's a lot of roles that need to be filled fast, and they're going to be the ones to do it. So you'll see a lot of these guys next year. Thanks a lot, everybody.